Today, the President and Vice President of the United States met with the President of Ukraine in the Oval Office. The American leaders committed five very fundamental errors. There were five big failures today, and I wanted to take this opportunity, while the moment is fresh, to comment on what they are. The first failure was one of hospitality. This may seem a little old-fashioned to me, but I think it's important. When someone travels to your house, you're supposed to be hospitable to them. You're supposed to be gentle and generous and providing. And if that somebody who traveled to your house is coming from a country at war, if they had to take a night train because there were no planes or helicopters, if it took them days to reach you because of all these difficulties, that's all the more reason to be hospitable. And in yelling and interrupting, we were inhospitable today. Second failure is one of decency. President Zelensky is coming from and represents a country at war. 3 years ago, Russia invaded Ukraine, and since that time has not ceased to commit various barbarisms, from bombing civilians to torturing people in basements to kidnapping children. This goes on and on and on every day. And this is a reality that the president of Ukraine, like all Ukrainians, have to face. One can have different opinions about how to bring this war to an end, and that's normal. What's not normal, what's indecent, is to yell at any Ukrainian, including the president, about your opinion, to yell at them that they are wrong, when they've experienced things that you have not, when they've seen things that you have not, when they've had to face choices that you haven't had to face. That's a failure of decency. And it's related to the third failure, which is a failure of democracy. President Zelensky is coming from a democratic country. He was elected by a big majority, 73%, and he's had to lead a country that expects him to represent them. And that means when he sits in a place or stands in a place, whether it's the White House or any other place, he has behind him all the people, not just the ones who voted for him, but all of the citizens. He can't allow himself to be openly disrespected or belittled or bullied. I'm sure he doesn't want to personally, but he's also representing people who have to stand up for things, people who have had stood up for things. As a democratically elected president, he has to show a certain dignity. And again, I'm sure it's a dignity he feels himself, but democracy brings with it some dignity. And if you're a democratic person, you respect that. But the democratic failure has a second side. Most Americans understand that Russia invaded Ukraine. Most Americans understand that the war is Putin's responsibility. Very few Americans believe that we should throw aside Ukraine and our other allies and become an ally of Russia. And that is the fourth failure, the failure of strategy. What we witnessed today, all too clearly, was the beginnings of an American alliance with Russia. And this is something which is very hard to understand in any kind of strategic calculation. The Russians specialize in sabotaging our infrastructure. They specialize in stealing our technological secrets. Those are the two main ways they engage with our economy. It's hard to explain why we would throw over our other allies in order to make an alliance with Russia. Leaving aside the fact that we have 80 years of tradition of getting along with our current set of allies, leaving aside the fact that there's no particular reason that we could ever count on Russia in any situation, there is simply no economic gain here. Canada's economy is bigger than Russia's. Why would we throw over Canada for Russia? The European economies are 15 times, at least, as big as Russia's. Why would we throw them over for Russia? Strategically, it doesn't make sense. Strategy is the fourth failure. And the fifth failure is independence. We Americans like to think of ourselves as independent. We like to believe that we think for ourselves. But in that inhospitable, indecent, undemocratic, unstrategic fracas that took place today in the Oval Office, there was a complete lack of independence on the American side. Everything that was said by American leaders has been said by Russians before. Every thought that was expressed has been expressed by Russians before. There was nothing that was said in that encounter which hadn't been said by Russians before. I leave it to you for now to come to your own conclusions about why that is, but at a minimum, this expresses a lack of American independence. These are the five failures as I saw them of the meeting in the Oval Office today. This is the first video I've ever recorded on my Substack. If you like it, I'll try to do some more. Please feel free to share it, and I'll do my best to remember to add some links at the bottom of this where you can help some Ukrainian causes if you feel like you should, as I certainly do today. Thank you.